Hey everyone, Scott Pyre, pop cult fan here. I just watched episode 6 of Grosse Pointe Garden Society. Finally got the pronunciation right. They even mentioned it on the show, that of the pronunciation. And I want to do a mid-season review, reviewing episodes 1 through 6, as episode 7 will actually be airing and streaming on NBC and Peacock this upcoming Friday, April 4th. They're changing the schedule dates for reasons of, I think, maybe getting away from the Sweet LA show, which I'm not watching that, but compared to the two NBC shows, that one is doing better than Grosse Pointe in regards to viewership ratings, and I think that's why they shifted it to Fridays, just to see if it can get a leg of its own during a weekend, airing on a Friday. I think that might be why they changed that. But anyway, starting with episode 7 and then all the way to the season finale, the rest of the episodes will be premiering on Fridays. So let's go ahead and get into this. Grosse Pointe Garden Society, I enjoy it. I like most of these characters. I mean, if I had to pick a least favorite character so far, I honestly, speaking realistically in regards to the fact that this show is about a group of people talking about their marriages, that aspect of the show, I'm just not really all that interested in that kind of aspect of this series. For those of you that are around my age, 29, 30, 31, that are probably married and also probably have kids, this show probably will cater to you and you'd probably be more invested in it. I mean, personally, I am really enjoying the show. I like that it is a murder drama, and I like most of the characters. It's just that because the whole group of people talking about marriages thing, whether they're married or divorced or whatever, that it's just not that interesting to me. It's not. Brutally honest about that. I'm just not interested in that kind of storytelling. If you've seen this, I'm not to compare, but if you've seen Sonic 2, for example, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, the whole marriage subplot with James Marsters character, I'm not interested in storytelling in regards to marriages. I'm just not. But moving past it, this is a show that I do think caters to adults mostly, and also with the murder drama aspect of it. I like the whole 6-month gap between past time and future time within the 6 months later. I like that aspect of the show because it's all bright and colorful in the kind of that. The 6 months before, it's all bright and colorful at that point, and then the 6 months later, it's all more like a blue lighting and very in a sense, sort of like the series finale of Bates Motel, where you get that kind of hopefulness, and as a result of this hopefulness near the beginning of a show, and the kind of story that it tells within a murder drama like this or Bates Motel, for example, you get that bright colorfulness within the cinematography and the lighting, and then within that 6 month later gap, it gets very kind of grainy in a sense, the blue lighting. That kind of cinematography there in that later period of time, I think is really fascinating. And in regards to Bates Motel, there are aspects of this show that reminds me of it. There is the character of Birdie and her relationship with her, and being a mentor to that teenage boy that's in high school, and also her relationship with his stepdad, the sheriff. That aspect of the show, Birdie, she reminds me a little bit of Vera Farmiga as Norma Bates. She does, and because of that, there's elements of this show that reminds me of Bates Motel. That's the only other show that I can compare this to, because I've never seen Desperate Housewives. That's not my kind of thing. So there's that. And also, I really like the character of Brett. You know, he's kind of like the cool dad kind of character, and I like him for that. You know, he has a very nice, charming presence to him. And also, of course, Anna Sophia Robb as Alice. I think in regards to these characters, and the one that for argument's sake, if it wasn't Anna Sophia Robb playing the character, I'd still think that out of all these four characters, I would say that Alice is probably the character I would relate to the most, in regards to how she is as a person, and also the kind of things that she likes to do, and also the kind of challenges she's facing. Not necessarily the same kind of challenges, but challenges no less, that kind of pressuring you into, in a sense, kind of leading to a certain level of depression. And if it wasn't Anna Sophia Robb playing the character, I'd still think that Alice would be the character that I relate to the most. But yeah, and in episode 4, it definitely picks up with the story a little bit more. More things start to happen. There's this whole subplot with Gary going missing, and getting kidnapped from what was going on with Catherine and her husband, and there's that. And also what was going on with Alice and her husband as well, that I thought, that started to really pick up in episode 4, and it was interesting. And also, I felt for Alice many times throughout these past few episodes, especially in last week's episode, and the friendship between her and Brett, kind of took a hit at the end of the last episode last week. And I felt for her character, and I'm still feeling for her character, especially in this newest episode of Planned Parenthood. That was the title of the most recent episode last night. And out of all these characters, Alice is the character I'm latching onto the most. Even if it wasn't Anna Sophia Robb playing the character, I'd still feel that. But yeah, I really am enjoying this show. I am. It's just the whole aspect of the marriage thing I'm just not fully invested in. I'm just not at that point in my life to really appreciate that kind of storytelling in movies and TV shows. I'm just not. But for those of you that want a murder drama, also another thing that I want to address about this is that, similar to Superman and Lois, I like that this show is focusing on the community of Grosse Pointe and the various different characters that live within this the city. And I like that. I like that they're building this sort of society within this town of Grosse Pointe, and I like that aspect of it a lot. It makes the city of Grosse Pointe itself feel like a character in and of itself, and I love it for that. That's another aspect of the show that I really appreciate. I like the music that is chosen throughout these episodes, and it's a solid show so far, and I'm really enjoying it, even though there are aspects of it that I'm just not fully invested in. And also, one other thing that I have to mention about the character of Catherine, there's this one aspect of her character that is just sort of making me not like her character as much compared to the other characters, just mainly because, I don't want to mention it, but the kind of thing that Catherine kind of desires, that I just, yeah, I mean, of the 4 characters that you're following the most throughout this show, I just think that Catherine is a character I'm just not getting it with her in certain aspects. But overall, I really like the character of Birdie. She's starting to really grow on me. She reminds me of Vera from Nora Bates, and also Anna Sophia Robb. I think she's doing amazing as Alice, and her acting in the most recent episode at the very end, definitely, things are starting to heat up in that 6 month later gap. And tensions are high. That's another thing about this. Like, the stakes are high, and like the things that are happening surrounding these characters in the latter half of the timeline in the 6 month later, and it's definitely something I'm looking forward to and where that's going to go. And another thing is that this show is also, they keep teasing different elements of the victim and the things that the victim had on them. Like, the show, there was one episode where the show focused in on like a New Balance shoe that may have been a New Balance shoe that the victim was wearing, maybe. And then there was also this pill bottle that the show was kind of focusing on a little bit. And also there was a fight that happens between two characters, and the show keeps kind of teasing what might be what happened to the victim, and I like that it keeps you guessing. I like that about it, but at the same time, another thing that I'm starting to have a little bit of a criticism towards is the fact that in the 6 month later gap, they're kind of jumping around in time quite a bit. Also, like in episode 4, they kind of jump before the murder, I think, with between Alice and Doug, and that whole aspect of episode 4 I thought was I'm not a huge fan of that when they kind of juggle around in time a little too much. It's just it makes it a little bit disjointed as a result. But I understand why they're doing it. I understand it. And it's something that I am optimistic about in regards to execution by the end of the story in the season finale. So we'll see how that goes. So that is my mid-season review of episodes 1 through 6. And it's a show that I am enjoying, but at the same time, there are a few things that I'm not a huge fan of with this show. So that is everything I want to talk about here on all my thoughts of Grosse Pointe so far. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.